Hello everyone, welcome back to our Python programming course. In our previous lecture, we learned what programming is, what Python is, how to install Python, and we also wrote our very first program using the print function. I hope you all have practiced what we learned in the previous lecture, and now we are ready to learn many more concepts. So, today we are going to take the next step. Until now, every value inside our program was fixed because we typed it ourselves. But imagine what if we want to store someone's name, if we want to store someone's marks, if we want to store a person's age. That's where variables come in. By the end of today's lecture, you will understand variables, different data types, how Python stores information, and how to take input from the user. Let's understand variables using a simple example. Imagine the kitchen of your house. There are so many containers, and in each container, you are storing different things. For examples, in a single container you store sugar, in some different container you are storing rice, and again you are storing tea leaves in different container. But the point over there is each and every container has a label. Or else what would happen if you wouldn't have labeled the containers? It would become difficult to identify what's inside, isn't it? Variables work in exactly the same way. Instead of storing food items, the variables store information. For examples, it stores numbers, integers, text, true or false, and many more. So, variables are the names which helps us access the stored information whenever we need that. So, what is a variable? A variable is a named location that stores a value. Think of it as a container that can hold information. For example, a person's name, a student's marks, temperature, price of a product, age, salary, all these values can be stored inside variables. The important thing is that the value stored inside a variable can change during the execution of a program. That's why it's called a variable. So, we have understood why we call it as a variable, because in a single variable we can store data, and sometimes when we need it we even can change the data we are storing in a variable. We are storing different information at different times in a single variable. Now, let's see in VS Code how we actually write variables or how we actually declare variables. So, we created a variable over here called name. See, we have already created a variable called name. And what does this equals to mean? Unlike the mathematics, unlike maths, equals to over here is used to store the information in the right side to the variable in the left side. What does this mean? We are storing the word Samrid into the variable called name, and here equals to is called the assignment operator. Now, as I said, variable is basically the location where we are storing any particular data. So we are storing Samrid in the variable. So we are storing Samrid in the variable name, and then we are printing name using the print function. So when we write print name, the print function automatically prints the data, or say the information stored in the variable called name. Now let's see more examples. Age is equals to 20, print age. See, the output is Samrit and 20. So what you have understood over here? We can store multiple kinds of data in variables. Like we are storing a text, that is Samrit, in a variable called name, and then we are storing the number 20 in a variable called age. Now let's understand why we call variable as the variable. See, in the first we wrote name is equals to Samrit, but let's change it. Let's store Rahul, then print name. Now if you observe, in at first we wrote name is equals to Samrit and we are printing the name. So first the name contains the word Samrit. Let's remove this part for better clarification. Then we are storing Rahul in the very same variable name. Now let's see if it gives an error or we get a output. Yeah, so we got a output. Our output is Samrit and Rahul. So what does this mean? Firstly, the variable name contains Samrit, and then we change the data in that variable to Rahul. Now finally the variable name contains Rahul as the information. That's we understand by the word variable. Variable means storing different data in a same variable. Let's understand in a different way. So now we already have seen that different variables store different types of data. We can store integer, we can store text, we can store our name, we can store our age, we can store the city we live in, we can store the country, or basically each and every variable in a program has some purpose to fulfill. Now, a small task for you all. Pause the video right now and create three variables storing your name, your age, your favorite subject, and try to print them. And if you want, you can experiment with it. And after you're satisfied and you understand that you have already understood what we are learning, you can resume the video. Now, as we have understood how to create variables, now let's understand what are the actual rules to create a variable. So the first rule is you can't. So the first rule is you can't start a variable name using a digit. Let's try. 1 name is equals to Samrit. Print 1 name. Now let's see if it gives an error or not. Yeah, as I said, syntax error. As I said, we'll have to face an error, and we are getting syntax error. So, the first rule to create a variable is you need to create a variable name starting not with a digit. The second rule, you can't use space in a variable name. We can't write student name. This will give error again. Let's see. Student name. As we knew, we are going to get syntax error. So here we can see. So let's repeat the first and the second rule. The first rule is you can't start a variable name using a digit. The second rule is you can't use space in between the name of the variable. Now, the third rule, you can't use any special character like dollar, hashtag, percentage, or any special character except underscore. So let's try with the underscore. Student name. Will this work? Let's see. Let's see if using an underscore in the variable and then trying to print it actually works. Yes, we can see Samrid over here. So, are the rules clear to you? Now, the final rule, you can't use keywords as the variable name. Now, you're thinking, what is keywords? It's a new term, isn't it? So, keywords are basically the reserved words in the Python language. Like, if we use if is equals to Samrid and then try to print if, then we will again get error. Again we are getting syntax error. So if is one of the keywords in Python. So we have understood keywords, we have understood what are the rules for creating a variable. So just a small note that there are 35 keywords in our Python language. We will be learning it step by step. So, as of now, we have understood how to create variables. What are the rules to create variables? How to store data into the variables? How to print it? Let's bifurcate. Let's try some examples. name name is equals to Samrit, age is equals to 20, hobby is equals to hobby is equals to coding, and then we can take sports as cricket. Now you can store you can now you can see we are storing multiple data in different variables. Now if you observe, we are giving meaningful variable names. Like the variable name, we can understand by the variable name that we need to store some person's name or something's name. Now age, we know we are going to store some number or some age to the variable age. Hobby is equals to coding, sports is equals to cricket. By this, the only thing I need to make you understand, people, make you understand is we need to give meaningful names to the variable, and it's a sign of a good programmer. Because just imagine you're opening your project after 6 months. Now now you're going through the code of a project, and you're seeing variables like a, x, y, z, or something like that, which doesn't make you understand what you were storing in that variable. Wouldn't that make the readability of the code poor? Yes, it's going to make the readability of the code very poor. So we need to give meaningful variable names. Now let's try to print them. Print name, print age, print hobby. Now you can see without writing print sports, the extension in the VS Code, that is Copilot, automatically guesses what we can write. So it will suggest you, and it will help to make lesser mistakes, or it helps you to write the code faster. Like if still I haven't written print sports, but see, we are already getting the suggestion from the copilot of the VS Code. Now just by typing, just by pressing tab in the keyboard, we are going to get this. Now let's run the code. Let's see what's the output. So the output is Samrit 20 coding cricket. Now what if we change the name from Samrit to Rahul? Will this give error? No. The output will just change. We haven't changed the print statement. We haven't changed the name of the variable. But we are getting Rahul. This is what variable actually does. And that's the advantage of variable. Now, One more important thing about variables. See, we are storing name, we are storing the name Rahul in a name, in the variable name. Now, if you see, all the characters in the variable name are small. What if we write name is equals to Samrit? What if we write the same variable name with capital N but different data? Let's see what happens. Now we are going to write print name. Will it give syntax error? Guess what will the output be? Let's see. So we are getting Rahul, Samrid, 20, coding, cricket. So we understood from here that Python is a case sensitive language. What does case sensitive mean? It means that Python treats the small alphabets and the capital alphabets differently because they have different ASCII code. The name, the variable name with the small n stores Rahul, while the variable name with capital N stores Samrid. So Python over here makes two containers. This is name with the small n, this is name with the capital N. Here Rahul is stored and here Samrid is stored. From here, get the clarification that it's a case sensitive language. So far, we have learned how to create variables, how to print them, how to rename them, and the rules for naming them. Now comes another important concept. Variables can store different kinds of information. Some stores numbers, some stores text, some stores true or false values. These categories are known as data types. Let's understand them in deep. So, what are data types? We have learned how to store information inside variables, but here's an important question. Can all kinds of information be stored in the same way? Think about your mobile phone. Your contacts store names. Your calculator stores numbers. Your gallery stores images. So, we can see that different types of informations are handled differently. Similarly, Python also classifies data into different categories, and these categories are called data types. So we are going to learn the data types. So we are going to learn data types in the further video. So our first data type is integer. And integer is simply the whole numbers or the numbers with no decimal points but can but also contains negative. We know what actually integers are. We have studied in maths. Every whole number, even if it has minus sign, I know that it's not a whole number when we go to negative. But to make you understand, I'm just saying, irrespective of the sign, if it's plus or negative, we don't care. We just see that the number is whole. Like minus 8, minus 7, minus 6, 4, 3, 2, 100, 1000, minus 100, minus 1000, and etc. Now, let's see how to store them. So age is equals to 20. Now see, we are storing an integer 20 in the variable age. Print age. So it is going to print 20. Now let's take more example. Temperature is equals to 42. Then we can say then we can say then we can say marks is equals to, let's take 90. Now let's take some negative integers like any of the examples we can take, like a is equals to minus 8. So let's try to print them. Print age, print temperature, print marks, then print a. Now let's see what the output would be. So we can see 20, 42, 90 and minus 8. So here Python is storing each and every numbers over here as integer. Now let's move to the next data type, and that's float. Now what do we mean by the word float? So float is any number that also contains a decimal part. For example, if we take 42.5 marks 90.2, a 8.5. Now if we observe, we can see that temperature is equals to 42.5. Now 0.5 is the decimal part. Again, 0.2 in marks is the decimal part. 0.5 in a is the decimal part. Now if we try to print them, we are getting 42.5, 90.2 minus 8.5. So any number with a decimal part is float. Now moving to the most common and the most useful data type called string. So string is basically where we store text or a collection of characters. Like example, if we take name is equals to Samrit, hobby is equals to coding, city is equals to Kolkata, phone number is equals to 9876543210. So if we see that we are storing collection of characters like in Samridh, SAMRIDH, again in hobby, CODING. So we are storing collection of characters. Now if we try to print name, print hobby, print city, print phone number. So yes, we get the same output as we expected. Now, a question to you all. We all have studied that we all know. Now, a question to you all. We all know that this is an integer, but we are storing it as string. Is it correct? Yes, it is, because even if we can store anything as string, if we put that particular thing if we put that particular thing within double quotes, even if we put just 10 over here, we will see 10 as string. And now if we write age is equals to 10 and print age, we are going to get 10 and again 10. But remember, the first 10 is a string, while the second 10 is the integer. Now we will understand how to actually understand what we are storing in that particular variable. There is a function, fortunately, there is an inbuilt function that Python provides us to actually know what type of data type we are storing in that particular variable. But before that, let's complete the types of data types. So, so now we have covered three types of data types: integer, float, and then string. Now moving on to one of the most special type of data type. So moving on to one of the most special data type, that is Boolean. I am saying it's special. Why? Because it stores because it has the possibility to store only two types of data. What it is? Let's see. First of all, understand, if there are questions like have you eaten, there are only two possibilities. You're going to say yes or either no. Have you borrowed the money? There are only two possibilities, either yes or no. Similarly, a Boolean data type stores either true or false. False represents 0 and true represents 1. Let's take some examples. Is student is equals to true. Log in is equals to false. Print is student. Print logged in. Let's okay, my bad, logged in. So let's see what the output is. Let me clear it off. So let's see what the output is. So it's true and false. Noticed? We are not writing the word true or false within the double quotes, even though we know they are a collection of characters. But as I said, it is a data type, and that data type can store only two types of values, either true or false. Now, I've already told that Python is a case sensitive language. So, if you try to change the so if you try to change this, or if you try to replace the capital T of true with small t, it will give name error. So yes, we can see it is giving name error. Why? Because true is just a text, a normal text. So if we want to store it, we need to give it in double quotes. Yeah. So true and false. Understood? Okay. One more point. If we see, true and false are one of the key words. If we try to store something in true, like yes, and then try to print true, what will happen? Syntax error. Remember the last rule of creating a variable, we can't use any keyword as the name of the variable. So, let's understand where we actually use Boolean data types. We use when our program or a part of program is going to take some decision, like if a condition is equals to true, then this will happen, else this will happen. So here we are checking the boolean, or say if the condition is either true or false. Now we have completed all the basic data types: integer, float, string and boolean. Now a small task for you all. Pause the video and create each and every and create one example of each and every data type, like for integer, for string, for float, for boolean. If like if we take an example, you can create a name variable storing your name, a age variable storing your age, a marks variable storing your marks. Name is a string data type, age is an integer data type, marks is a float data type, and again you can create is student as one of the data types, as one of the variables to store a boolean data type, to store either true or false. So it is going to be one of a boolean date. Then print all the values, and then once you are done, you need to experiment with that code, try to change something, get errors. Then if you are not able to understand why you are getting errors or what errors you are getting, either rewind the video, and if you are still not able to clarify, or if I am still not able to clarify your mistake, take helps of AI tools, take so, take helps of the sources available in the internet, and then fix your mistakes and then resume the video. Now we have understood how to create variables, we have understood the concept of data types. Now remember, previously in this lecture I said you are opening a program, or you are opening your one of the projects you have created after 6 or 7 months. Now you have created a variable name. Now you have created a variable name called x. We don't know, or you aren't able to understand which type of data it is storing. So what we are going to do? As I said, we are fortunate enough that Python has one of the inbuilt function called type. Let's see how we use it. Name is equals to Samrit. Now I and you right now know that the variable name has uh, the variable name stores string or a text. But how to understand if it actually stores? So we write print type name, and what if we run it? Guess what would the output be? Okay, let's clear it once. So the output is class str. What does str stand for? String? Yes, it stands for string. Now let's check age is equals to 20. Print type age. Now let's run it again. See, class str, class int. Now we are going to use it with each and every data type we have learned. So we are done with the string part. Let's not write it over. Oh, sorry. Let's not write it over here. Instead, we can write it over here. Hashtag string. Then hashtag integer. Then hashtag float. If we write height is equals to 5.9, then print type height. Okay, sorry, height. Then what's the what is the last data type we learned? Boolean. Correct. Boolean. Now is adult. Let's give true right now because we have mentioned height is equals to 20, and right now I am an adult. So print type is added. Okay. So, what is the expected output? For first part, class str. For the second part, class int. For the third part, class float. And for the last part, class boolean. Let's check what it is. Yes, we are getting the same expected output. Class str for the string data type, class int for the integer data type, class float for the float data type, and class bool or bool for the boolean data type. Now we now let's revise this type function. What when it actually helps us. Remember, whenever we are unsure what type of data a variable is storing, we directly can use type function with that particular variable name, and that type function will help us to get the type of data type or the type of data we are storing in that particular variable. Now, instead of name is equals to sumRid, if we store 30, or if instead of storing sumRid, if we replace it with 30, what will be the output? Will the output change or will it be the same? It would change, right? It will change to class int because we have changed the data inside the variable called name. We have given a integer data. We are storing an integer data in that variable name. Now, now we have understood what type function does, what is a variable, what is a keyword, how to create variables, what are data types. Now, when you will understand more about programming, when you will create projects, you will need to change the data type to different data types. Like, let's understand what I actually said right now. If I am storing age is equals to 20, now tell me that we are storing 20 as integer or as string. If your answer is string, you are correct. Let's check it. Print type and age. We get what? Class str. We're getting class str. Now we need to actually change this 20 into integer form. What we need to do? We need to write age is equals to int age, and then if we print the data type of age, we will get integer. See, so, and then if we print the value of age, we'll get 20. But this 20 is an integer right now. Why? Because before printing the value of age, we have already changed it into an integer data type. Now, what we are actually doing here is we are changing the string value to an integer value, and this process is called type casting. Type casting, where we change a data type from 1 to 2, from one to another. Now, we have already seen how to convert a string to an integer. Let's do it with different data types too. String to integer. Now we need to do it with string to float. If we write height is equals to 5.9. See, we are storing 5.9 as a string. Why? Because we have already mentioned 5.9 within double quotes. Now if we check the type of variable height, what should we get? Let's comment this part right now. What should we get? Class str? Yes, we are going to get class str. Now let's change it into float. So height is equals to float height, then print the type height. Now what will this print, or say what will be the final output? Class float, and that's correct. We are getting, or we have typecasted the variable height from string to float. Now let's comment the whole part again. Then we are moving from, we have already done with string to integer, string to float. Now integer to float. Age is equals, not age, let's take temperature is equals to 30. Now let's check what is the data type of temperature right now. Guess what would be the output over here? Class integer, and then you are again correct. Now let's typecast temperature variable into float. So temperature is equals to float temperature, then print type temperature. Now before checking the output, can you guess what would the output be? Class float, right? And what if we print the value of temperature? Will we still get 30? We must not, because 30 is an integer, but we have typecasted it into float. And what does float mean? That it would have a decimal part. Now let's check what the output actually is. See, firstly it was an integer, then we typecasted it into float, and now the final output is a float number. which is 30.0. Now point 0 is also a decimal part. So we have successfully we so now we have successfully changed an integer data type into a float data type. Now, before moving ahead, a small note or a small note that we can only typecast the data type from the variable from one data type to another only if the data we are storing is actually the data which we can store into the another data type variable. What does this mean? If we are storing name is equals to 20, we can typecast it to integer. But what if we store Rahul over here? Can we store Rahul as integer? No, because Rahul is not a valid integer, or we can't store the information Rahul in an actual variable which is an integer, because we can't store Rahul into an variable which has integer as its data type. We have seen. Let's check what if we try to typecast this. So first let's print the type of data type name. Let's see what the output is. As expected, it's class str. Now what if we try to typecast it into, let's say, integer name is equals to int name, and if we then try to print type name, should it give an error? Yes, we got an error called value error. What it's written, invalid literal for int with base 10 Rahul. That means that only strings that represent valid numbers can be converted using int or float. So let's comment this point for right a moment. So have we actually understood typecasting? Now it's your job to practice typecasting, because it's one of the most important concepts we'll be using in programming. Now let's try one more thing, that is float to integer. So let's comment this out first, and then write age is equals to 30.0, and then if we check the data type, print type age, it would be float. Yes, it is float. What if we change it to age is equals to int age, print type age? The output we are expecting should be class int. Yes, it is class int right now. But what if we try to actually print the value of age? Can you all guess what would be the output? If your answer is actually if your answer is actually 30, you're correct. Let's see. Yes, it is correct. It's 30. Now remember that when we are typecasting the data type from float to integer, it actually isn't rounding up the value. It is actually ignoring the decimal values. Even if we write 30.9, the actual output would be 30 again. So it is not actually rounding up, it is actually ignoring or removing the decimal part, that is point 0.9, and just giving the whole number part of the float number. So for now, we have learned about the four basic data types, how to identify them using type, and how to convert values from one type to another. In the next lecture, we'll learn one of the most exciting concepts in program, that is taking input from the user. Instead of displaying fixed values, our program will start interacting with users. So excited for that? But before moving on to the next lecture, it's a very humble request to you all to please keep practicing whatever concepts you are learning. Experiment with it, make errors, but try to fix them too. Thank you for watching the lecture. We'll meet soon in the next lecture. Thank you.